What I'm about to say might be contrary to popular belief, but nonetheless, I will say it because it offers a different perspective. In fact, it could be summarized in two simple words. Don't manifest. Yeah, that's it. Don't manifest, but rather be the manifestation. Because in truth, you will always be the manifester. And whatever you perceive to be your manifestation is intrinsically, if not intimately, connected to your experience, given that it forms an integral part of your individual reality, simply because it's always perceived by you. You're the one experiencing the so-called manifestation. And so, for me personally, might I add, the word, the term, the idea, the concept in itself of manifestation is somewhat unnecessary, more especially within a social construct, mainly due to its elusive and often confusing nature. Because for most of us average folks, it seems to be something which is completely far-fetched, which goes against the reality of the matter. And the reality of the matter is that what we've come to term as manifestation is merely the happening which is always happening, and that happening is the process of creation, and the process of creation is the unfoldment of life as we experience it in relation to reality, the one reality which encapsulates everything within existence. And so I guess you could say reality in itself is existence, because we all exist within it, even though we experience it differently, right? But the point is, or rather, should I say, to drive the point home with regards to being the manifestation as opposed to manifesting. That's to say, be instead of doing. Because by being, the doing or the happening which would come from the doing falls into place naturally. Hence the law of cause and effect. But now, when we manifest, it's like trying to change something which should be employed from an internal point of being on the outside. It's like painting a house, an old house, nicely on the outside, but neglecting the inside, which is busted. And so, to substantiate this point, I will make an example which is rooted in the reference of the late Jim Rohn, who once said something very profound, something which changed the way I relate to reality. He said, if one wishes to be a millionaire, then one would be required to be a millionaire. Okay, I can't really recall the exact words. I'm just paraphrasing here. And then he went further to say, if one were to miraculously come across millions of dollars, then one would be required to be a millionaire, lest one loses all the fortune. Because if one does not meet the occasion, then the reality of one's being will come into effect. And we see this, especially if you reside in South Africa. There's actually a whole show, a whole program centered around this. It's titled I Blew It. It goes to show that even if you have millions, that doesn't necessarily make you a millionaire, because you could get $1 million from a wishful means, so to speak, something completely unexpected, perhaps from an accident fund. But of course, you don't know what it takes to accumulate the millions, so you will live out your experience the way you know how to, or the way you believe you know how to, and eventually blow the millions, because your mindset is fundamentally rooted in poverty.